Mike in Evans City, Pennsylvania. Hey, Mike, you want to talk about Bernie?
Yeah, Tom, I'll be straight up with you. I am a conservative. I don't like most of the Republicans any longer, though. I don't like any of the Democrats. I'm probably what you would call a sucker. I don't consider myself one. But what I don't understand is Bernie Sanders, he basically wants to double down on everything that has gotten us into this mess that we're in. And there's no understanding on the left.
Mike, you're absolutely wrong. You're absolutely wrong. What Bernie Sanders wants to do is reverse Reaganism and take us back to a country that worked. That's the exact opposite of what you just said. If you want to go through the specific examples, I would be glad to with you.
Okay, what does raising minimum wage do?
Raising the minimum wage stimulates the economy, and it takes us back to the fundamental principle that we had in this country, by and large, from the 30s through the 80s, that if you work a 40-hour week and keep your nose clean, you shouldn't live in poverty.
But there's no understanding of how the economy works. All these government programs do nothing but...
No, you're wrong, Mike. The economies are created by governments. Economies exist by virtue of government. And government establishes the rules for the economy. And we used to have a rule for our economy that said that if you are working a full-time job, you do not have to live in poverty. You might be living quite modestly, but you do not have to live in poverty. And that got blown up with Reaganism. It has nothing to do with rules of economics or economies. Economies are created by government. It has to do with government policy, pure and simple.
If you give me 20 seconds, I could explain it to you.
Please.
Here's the deal. Every government program increases inflation, okay? The government wants inflation. It's a hidden tax.
Wrong.
Okay, is what it is.
Well, inflation is a hidden tax, yes, but government programs don't create inflation. What creates inflation is a difference in the well, there's two things that can create inflation. One is the difference between supply and demand for money, but more importantly, what actually most commonly creates that creates small incremental inflation, and that's the Fed's job, is to actually do that. So yes, you're right. The government can pay off debts with cheaper dollars over time, which is why they do that. And so do companies, for that matter.
Wages never would keep up with that. The only thing
but big inflation comes from a shortage of critical commodities.
No, the only thing that has saved this country, and you all hate it more than anything, is oil, is shale drilling. It's putting $1 billion a day, well, $800 million a day in Americans' pockets that wasn't there before. Okay, you all say we don't need oil, we don't need this. We've spent $154 billion on solar energy programs like Solyndra, all these things. Solar amounts to 0.3% of our energy consumption in the United States right now, $154 billion. Now, shale drilling, that's actually a deflationary thing because we have reduced the price of oil.
Mike, you can all day long, take these numbers, and I'm it's funny because no, hang on just a second, Mike. Danielle put a note here going, is this one of these paid callers? I'm starting to think so with all these numbers right at the finger. Yeah. No, Mike, seriously for a minute. Shale oil drilling, number one, you're polluting communities' water. Number two, you're pumping more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Number three, most of these wells are not going to last more than 5 or 6 years. It's basically a Ponzi scheme, and the shale oil companies pretty much have admitted that. Number four, it is perpetuating a 19th century energy source when we are surrounded by sunlight. I don't know what the exact percentage that we're providing with sunlight in the United States is right now, but Germany was over 50% last summer, and on average is 30%. We can do this. What you are arguing is saying, let's go back to the stupid policies of the 19th century and protect the fortunes of oil billionaires who inherited their oil companies like the Koch brothers and oil billionaires like Rex Tillerson over at ExxonMobil. Let's protect their fortunes, and to hell with future generations, to hell with our environment, and you're trying to do it with fancy numbers, and it's BS, and I'm not buying it, and I don't think anybody else will buy it either. I think Americans get it, that we are smart enough to, now that solar and wind, which by the way are producing more than 20% of the electricity in Iowa and Texas, that solar and wind are at scale and are fully competitive with fossil fuels. And in fact, if we did away with the $5.2 trillion a year in subsidies for the fossil fuel industries so that the Koch brothers and ExxonMobil and everybody get even richer, then solar and wind would even be less expensive than any fossil fuel, period. We could do away with fossil fuels altogether But, you guys don't want the magic of the market to work in those circumstances. And then you say, oh, gee, we subsidize some solar. Hell, we've been subsidizing oil since 1866.
No, a subsidy and a tax break are two different things.
We have been subsidizing oil since 1866. Abraham Lincoln laid down the rail lines that John Rockefeller was running oil over. We have been subsidizing oil. Tax breaks are a form of subsidies too, but it's not just tax breaks. And Mike, you are arguing for death. Why would you do that if you're not paid to do that? I don't understand.
Oh, I'm not paid at all to do that. I'll tell you why. Here's the deal. Right, our country, I haven't read your book, 26, The Crash of 2016. I haven't, and I don't know. I would like to read it. But something is coming. Anyone that can't see that is crazy. You're probably going to blame it all on Reagan or something like that. But the thing is, there's nothing else for the Federal Reserve to do right now. Interest rates are at the lowest they've ever been. They've shot other bullets and threw their gun at the economy. We've got 93 million people not working. The unemployment rate's a joke, 5%. That's laughable. It's not even close to being accurate. There's nothing else for them to do. The only thing that has saved us, and I know you're going to hate to hear this, is oil and gas.
Well, okay, so here's, if what you're saying is true, and I'd say it's not. I'd say it's a very small sliver of our economy. I think what has, quote, saved us is these low interest rates, so companies are buying back their stocks and jacking up the value of the stock market, and thus we are in a bubble. But if that was the case, even that, why don't we say, okay, hey, we can create 100,000 jobs or 1 million jobs or whatever with fracking. Why don't we do that with solar? Why don't we do that with wind? I mean, it's just this. Mike, thank you for the call. We'll be back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
I love me the trolls. We'll be back.